This Bass Pro Shops Night Race DFS Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome in to another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. As always, he's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Welcome to Friday. Tonight, of course, the Xfinity drivers will be taking the track at Bristol. However, because we want this episode to breathe a little bit, we're not really going to worry about the Xfinity for DFS, unfortunately. We're going straight Cup because Saturday is when it all takes place. Keep an eye on the YouTube. We will give you our favorite, some of our favorite DFS and underdog plays on the YouTube shorts and on our social medias. But Cody, baby, it's Bristol, my friend. We are short tracking it up at night races this weekend.
It's Bristol, baby. Let's go, Rod. Friday, it's the weekend. The Truck Series race was last night. Of course, we made a ton of money on that. Congrats to, should we just do some quick outtakes? Like, congrats to Grant Enfinger. Congrats to Christian Eckes. Congrats to Ty Majeski. Then just clip whichever part actually happened, and we'll go with that. But likely, Grant Enfinger won that race. So congratulations to him. It was a great race on a Thursday night. Now we get some Friday night Xfinity Series under the lights. Gotta love it. I'm excited. Look at this. This weekend is just great. My Patriots beat the Jets last night as well. Boy, these predictions can sound really crazy depending on how this goes. I get Trucks on a Thursday night and the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. The Nebraska Cornhuskers play on Friday night under the lights and Xfinity Series on Friday night. Let's fucking go. What a weekend. What a time to be alive, Rod.
Thursday just got ridiculously busy for me too. I mean, we're talking the back road on Thursday night with Seth and Elliott, the game, the race. Like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what to do with myself, first and foremost. And I can predict that now because, all right, you guys know that Fridays we normally tape the DFS episode on a Thursday because we like to just get it out to you in the morning so you can have time to deal with it. This is no different. Today we are here on a Thursday, taping it for a Friday. We don't know what happened in the truck race. Normally it doesn't matter, but in this instance it does. But whatever happened, I'm sure we had fun watching the race. I'm sure we had fun watching the game, and I know that I'm going to have fun on the back road of Seth and Elliott tonight, and you could check it out right now on the YouTube channel. So do that as well. But yeah, Cody, we're doing the Cup DFS, and I think, honestly, this is the better one to do anyways, because I think this is the one that offers a little more value. We talked about it in the truck betting and the Xfinity. Doesn't feel like a lot of, value in either one of those. The Cup race, I feel like we're going to get the best opportunity to put together a good lineup.
Yeah, and 500 laps. This is no Watkins Glen, Rod. Would we have 70, 90 laps last week? Not very many laps to lead. Not very many fast laps to be had. 500 this week. That changes the game. You're going to have to get the guys who lead a lot of laps. That is the goal in this and in fast laps, because you got 500 laps led. You got 500 fast laps to hand out. Of course, your finishing position always matters. Of course, your place differential matters. But those laps led are going to be the biggest key to your lineup this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen upwards of hundreds of laps, well, led on these cup races. And one driver, if they can get out and lead a ton and you don't have them in your lineup, you are sunk. So we're going to try to identify those for you, and also good values as we always do. And then, of course, we're going to give you some of our favorite underdog fantasy picks for this race as well. Underdog kind enough to give us a ton of options actually this week early on, so we can get that out to you as well. Cody and I are both military men, and we also know a lot about battles, and the war right now is raging against corporate gambling, and it's heating up. SGPN needs you to do your part. Just like Uncle Sam says, we need you in the war against corporate gambling. Take a couple seconds, rate, review, just say some nice things about this show. Say wonderful things about Cody. I mean, he needs the validation. I personally, you could say all the bad things you want about me, but just make Cody look great in this one as well. But really, ultimately tell a friend, because word of mouth is the heartbeat of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We rely on it to get our shows out, and we rely on your kind words to all your friends and recommendations about our show and the other shows on the network. Cody, as you said before, it is the Bass Pro Shops night race. Both races this year on the concrete. We did away with the dirt, the Bass Pro Shop dirt race or whatever dirt race it was back then. Gone, right? We're back to concrete again. So we have something to look at from earlier this year to actually judge, which is good, because last few years that concrete race in the fall, we were like, we can only kind of do what we did last fall, but we have something to compare to. We are set for, like you said, 500 laps in this race around this 0.533 mile paved track for 266.5 miles around the Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee.
Yeah, it's I don't know how much we want to look at the spring race because of the tire debacle, as we kind of talked about on the betting episode, but you can still definitely take some things from it, and who knows, we're bringing the same tire codes this weekend, so whether it's that type of racing again, it's not going to be to that extreme, even if it is, because the teams will be more prepared this time, but I think we're in for a pretty good race, and it is nice to have a spring race to look back on and be able to take some and compare from that, rather than just the fall race. It's been a whole season. Teams change, things change, seasons change. And while that's the case, obviously, from early March as well, we still have something to look back on.
There's a lot being made right now out of the tire debacle that happened. And I know that threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans, and it ruined a lot of days. We're not expecting the same type of tire mess ups. I say that with the raised voice because I don't know, but we would like to hope that this race goes off without a lot of what's going on. And it's a playoff race, so that's important.
Yeah, hopefully it's just a good middle, right? Hopefully we have a lot of tire wear that will affect the race and you'll get some fall off, but not to the disaster that it was this spring, although it was a pretty entertaining race. So there is that.
Yeah, I mean, I know the tire fall off usually produces good racing, but yeah, like you said, when you don't know when you put on 4 fresh Goodyears, you're going to make it 3 laps before it completely falls apart. It definitely holds true. Denny Hamlin winning the spring race, led 163 laps in the process. Tyrone Gibbs leading 134 laps in the spring race here as well. So a couple of Gibbs guys who, honestly, Cody, I'm not necessarily all that high on this week, and we'll talk about that in a second. But looking back at the 2023 night race here, yeah, Ty Gibbs leading 102 laps, Christopher Bell leading 187, and Denny Hamlin leading 142. So maybe we'll talk about a few of these guys.
A lot of
Toyotas. But yet I'm not feeling
it is crazy. So I heard, and shout out to whoever it was. I don't remember who it was, but might have been Phil. Somebody was mentioning that Kyle Larson has won here, but the other, like the last active Chevrolet driver to win here was Kyle Busch, like in a Chevrolet. So that means it had been when Kyle Busch won in a Hendrick Chevrolet a long time ago, because obviously he was with Gibbs and Toyota for a long time, and he won a bunch of times in there too. But yeah, it's actually a bit crazy, but Toyota's kind of been really good here. I think they had 5 of the top 10 in the spring as well. So something to note. Whether that completely holds up this weekend or not, I don't know, but do have some thoughts on at least one today.
Yeah, Hamlin back-to-back on this track. Yeah, Kyle Larson won in 2021. Then you got to go back to Kyle Busch in 2018. But before that, You want to take a guess at who the Chevy driver in 2017 that ended up winning on this track was?
Kevin Harvick.
Nope. Right after that.
Jimmy
Well, he
Johnson.
was the one right before that.
I don't know.
Jimmy Johnson, my man.
Oh.
Jimmy Johnson, 2017.
There you
Won.
go.
And that was the last Chevy before a string of Fords and Toyotas on this track in particular. So, all right. Well, then, I feel like we've set this up well enough. We're going to give you our high-priced drivers, our mid-tier drivers, and our low-priced drivers for this slate. But before we do, I would like to take the opportunity to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy Pick'em is always adding to their awesome menu. They now even have first TD projections for your NFL games. Heck yeah, baby. Give me first TDs all day. Ton of ways to win with the NFL, with college football, MLB, MMA, NASCAR, Formula One. All of the series, trucks, and Xfinity are all there for you. Lobbies jam-packed with profit boost and no sweat entries. Plus, you can use boosts and specials on all flexed entries. We got a whole ton of underdog picks that we're about to give you later on in the episode. Stay tuned for that. Sign up with our promo code in the meantime to claim your special pick. That's Race SGPN. And of course, first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code Race SGPN. Well, Cody, everybody's got to have at least one of these high price drivers on their slate, because I guarantee you right now that if you don't have one of these guys, you're going to be sorry, but may not always be the ones you're thinking of.
Yeah, it might not. And I think we both kind of took this route. We're not going to take the obvious, right? Denny Hamlin, 11,000. Kyle Larson at 10,500. You're going to have to play at least one of these guys, maybe both of these guys. See how practice and qualifying shakes out if one of them starting up front. Denny Hamlin's history here, well documented. Kyle Larson, we talked about him a lot on the betting episode earlier this week. Been really good here. Christopher Bell, another guy to consider right there at the top as well. But Rod, I wanted to kind of go towards the bottom side of these top tier drivers. You could almost lump them into the mid-tier driver if you wanted to, but I didn't want this show to go by without talking about Mr. Tyrone Gibbs. I know that you're completely out on him, Rod, and that's fine, because if you don't play him, that's one less person playing him. More money for me. $8,700 for Mr. Ty Gibbs. Rod came here in the springtime. He led 137 laps. He won both stages in this race, was leading late until had a tire issue. Now you could say, Cody, well, that was a tire race, and that was the tire debacle, and maybe you're thinking too much about that, and you shouldn't do that. To that, I would say, okay, you have a point. Well, how about last fall then, Rod, where he led 102 laps and finished in 5th place? Pretty solid, right? So that's 2 races in a row. He's only got 3 career starts here. His first start didn't go very well in the 23 car when he was filling in for Kurt Busch, and they had flopped the numbers. Bubba was in the 45. Ty was in the 23, but had a steering issue earlier in that race and did not finish well, so tossing that out. But in his other 2 starts last fall in this race, 5th place after starting in 8th place, led those 102 laps, and then he still ended up finishing 9th actually here in the spring, so not a bad finish by any means after starting in 19th, leading 137 laps. He's got that upside. Look, if there's a track left this season where Ty is going to get that first win, Rod, Coda maybe too, or not Coda, the Roval too maybe, but this is probably the best bet that he's got, right? And we weren't really on him in the betting episode. His numbers are pretty nuke this week, and it's tough, but I wanted to make sure we talk about it because he is really good at Bristol, and he's led a lot of laps in his 2 starts here, and at only 8,700, that's not that much for a driver that can score you big points like that. He's been a little up and down lately. He kind of comes in and out of scoring points, but he's had some big days. 41 points 2 weeks ago, 60, 65.2 a couple weeks ago at Michigan, 45.2 at Chicago even, which is hard to score there because it's a street course. So had some good positive days for Ty Gibbs lately, and he's been really good at Bristol. We just documented how good Toyota has been here as well, and that's obviously the manufacturer that he runs for. So give me Tyrone Gibbs, $8,700.
You and I are going to have a tussle because I have a lot of things to say about Ty Gibbs later. And okay, listen, not to say that he probably won't be good for DFS, because the angle I'm going to take on him later in the show is not necessarily how I feel about how his DFS value, right? Especially if he starts somewhere in the middle of the pack or whatever. If he doesn't get a good starting position, then he's definitely going to be somebody to watch in DFS. However, like you said, his betting numbers made it so difficult for us to even talk about him in the betting episode that it's just not fun. And then, of course, later on when I talk about him, the points I'm going to make are not that he's not going to have a good day. I just don't think it's going to be as great a day as maybe he would hope or his team would hope. So I'll leave it there. We'll talk about that in a second. What I want to talk to you about is Brad Keselowski. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about him in the betting episode because, again, Cody, like we said, numbers just did not justify us talking about Brad Keselowski, but he has actually been pretty damn good on this track as of late, especially for DFS purposes. He did win in 2020, started from the pole at 115 laps in that particular race in the fall of 2020. That was a bad day for him, actually. He started on the pole, finished 34th. However, he did lead 82 laps. So, it didn't end the way he wanted it to, but he has led at least one lap in every race going back to 2019, with the exception of last fall, in which he started 6th, finished 8th. So still not a bad overall DFS day. He didn't get you the place differential points, but he did get you a solid finish in that one. Wish he could have led some laps along the way, but that didn't happen as well. But before that, a 10th place finish in 2021, or a 10th place start rather, 6th place finish in 2021. Earlier this spring, right? 3rd place finish. I get it. I know that the tire thing is an issue, but he started 17th, finished in 3rd. We're not asking him to get a top 5. We're not asking him to get a top 3. We just want him to have a solid DFS day and a good finish for Brad Keselowski, a nice solid 8th place finish, 6th place finish like he's had in the past. I mean, the really only bad finish that he's had outside of or at all in this time is that 34th place finish in the fall of 2020, and that was 4 years ago. So I'm expecting a good day out of Brad Keselowski. What has he done so far outside of that? Well, 4th place at Phoenix. I know it's not a short track, but it's still not a huge track. That 3rd place at Bristol, 8th place at Richmond. He actually won at Darlington, right? So that's a good feather in his cap for that as well. And then, a 5th place at Michigan. So he's done some great things this season on tracks that aren't super speedways, road courses, or mile and a half. So, give me Brad Keselowski as a good DFS play. He comes in at $9,500, so a big discount from some of these higher priced guys on the slate.
Yeah, I like this as well. And actually, if you wouldn't have had him in here already when I got to the doc, I probably would have put him in here because a guy we needed to talk about after not getting to him in the betting episode. It was between him and Buescher as far as my outright. I took the Buescher side of things because the price is a little better, and I just believe in Buescher. But race that Buescher won here a couple of years ago, let's not forget, Brad was going to win that. And then I don't remember, I think he had a tire go down or so, he had some issue, and that's what caused him to cough up the lead, and Buescher takes it over and gets the win, and kept Keselowski's winless streak going for almost a whole nother season. But it's still, like, Brad has been very, very good at Bristol throughout the years. You love that. And he's in a position where he needs to put himself in a good position this weekend because he's coming in underneath of that cut line, Rod. And he doesn't want to be eliminated early from the playoffs. So going to need a good night from Keselowski. I think we're going to get it. I think he's a good play at this price.
I'm glad you agree with me on that one. Like I said, I didn't agree with you on the last one, so I was thinking you were going to take me to the shed. All right.
I'll save that for later, Rod.
Yeah, we will. All right, let's move down to our mid-tier drivers. Cody, who do we got?
Yeah, mid-tier driver. I'll be interested to see if you agree on this one because you generally like this guy, but you maybe have to make somewhat of a case here. I'm going to go with AJ Allmendinger, $7,000, Rod, in that 16 car. Of course, we know he's going to return to that car full-time next season. Now, if you click on AJ Allmendinger's name in DFS here, you're going to see minus 25 points last week at the Glen. You're going to see minus 18 points at Brickyard. You're going to see minus 13 points at Iowa. And you're going to be like, nah, maybe I don't want to play him. But if you look at some of the other finishes and you look at some of the other stuff, AJ Allmendinger has actually been pretty solid when he's in that car this season. 23rd place here in the spring. So, at $7,000, that's not too bad. We'll take that, right? 30th here last year, so not great there. But 2022 in the same 16 car, a 7th place finish. That's the type of stuff he's capable of. He's got a 9th place finish, a 13th, a 12th, all in that JTG car, even back in the Petty days, 16th, 17th, 12th place finishes. He's had good runs here at Bristol over the years. He won here in the Xfinity Series just a couple of seasons ago. Actually, we talked about him a lot in the Xfinity Series betting episode because he's been really strong here. You go back and you look at what's he done in the 16 car this season. The results have been a little bit up and down, right? Watkins Glen was 36th last week. They had that issue right on the first lap, and things were just bad. Michigan wasn't good, but you look at some places. Nashville popped up 11th place. Again, shorter track, not really comparable to Bristol in any way other than not a big track, right? Indy wasn't great. Pocono was okay. Michigan wasn't great, but shorter track in Nashville, boom, 11th place. Dover, probably the most comparable track we're going to get to Bristol, 13th place. All right, now we're talking, right? That's the type of stuff you like to see. Some good finishes, obviously, at road courses and super speedways as well, but those are kind of the only other normal, quote-unquote, tracks that AJ's been to this season. So he offers a lot of upside. I think a lot of people are going to look past him because they're going to see some of those negative numbers in there. And I think that there's definitely some risk in playing him, right? We know the calling equipment has its moments, and it's not always the greatest thing ever. But when AJ shows up, he's got that top 10 upside, and he's got the ability to score you a really good day. So AJ Allmendinger at $7,000, definitely somebody I think that is worth looking at.
The only thing I ever have with AJ Allmendinger, the only thing is which one are we going to get? Because if you've listened to this show for 5 minutes, you know that I identify with the man as far as just being wildly swung in how my day gets affected by or impacted. I don't want to know the effect or affect. I don't need editorials, anything. How one little thing can set my entire day off, right? That's how AJ is with the same way. I mean, he could be driving beautifully, right? He could be having a great day. Something like a slow right front or a bug that flies the wrong direction and then it's just lights out for AJ. So I want to see the AJ that stays consistent and that doesn't let somebody never mind. I'm not even gonna ruin his day. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, but $7,000 is not a heavy investment on a GPP play with the upside that AJ Allmendinger's offer. So I'm with you on that one. And if you can easily source all that, then by all means, please do that. All right. I'm going to give you a guy that I don't necessarily always talk and praise, but I'm going to talk about Michael McDowell for a second. I'm going to give him as my mid-tier driver. I talked about him earlier in the betting episode. This is actually one of those plays where people are on him in crazy places, on road courses, on super speedways. They're all over Michael McDowell, and for good reason. But I think sometimes it gets a little lost everywhere else. But Michael McDowell, $7,300. I don't know that too many people are going to be on him. Look, his average finishing position overall maybe is exactly why everybody's going to be off of me. He's only got 2 top 10 finishes in his entire career on this track, 27.2 average finish. However, the last 3 races, not bad DFS days actually for Michael McDowell. And in fact, if you go kind of farther back into 2020 in the spring race of that particular race, not bad for him there either. You're paying, what did I say, $7,300 for Michael McDowell. Last in this spring race, he started 7th, finished 11th. Not bad for $7,300. A 6th place finish in the fall of 2023. Again, not a bad finish for that price. Started 4th in that race. In 2022 in the fall race, started 18th, finished 11th. 2020 fall, started 16th, finished 24th. Not a really good day there. But in the spring, started 26th and finished 10th. In the fall of 2020, started 26th, finished 10th. And then in the spring of that year, started 25th, finished 14th. So there have been, in that course, 5 top 15 finishes for Michael McDowell. And 2 of those a top 10, 2 of those an 11th place finish. So not a bad little record he's got going over the last 4 years here on this particular track. So at $7,300, I feel like he's a sneaky play because it's not a road course. It's not a super speedway. So people may just overlook Michael McDowell this week because they think, well, it's an oval and Michael McDowell and that front row team, not really that good on ovals. So give me Michael McDowell, $7,300.
Just to stay consistent, Rod. I don't really know what to do with Michael McDowell. So
no, you don't.
Same response I had when you had a bet on him earlier this week. And it's kind of still where I land. I do think at DFS, I would look at him a lot quicker than I would as far as on the betting card. So 7,300, I think he definitely could offer you some value and good upside there.
Good upside indeed. All right. Well then, Cody, all that's left is to save people a massive amount of money and move down to our low tier drivers. So who are we taking as our value drivers of the slate.
Yeah, this is a guy that I don't usually look at, Rod, but when you look at what he's done at Bristol in particular, he just kind of jumps out off the sheet to you. And that is one Ryan Priest, driver of the number 41 Stewart Haas machine. Rod, he checks in at 6,400. So paid up a little bit in the cheap bracket here, but guy I wanted to touch on just because, well, you don't really get that many opportunities to touch on him, but he's a short track guy, right? We know that because he's a modified guy, kind of came up that way, and modifieds don't really run Bristol, but still, he's done really well here, actually. So if you go back, he's got 8 career starts here. His first 6 were all in JTG cars, and then of course these last 2 in the Stewart Haas cars. But his first start was 25th place, and that's been his worst finish, which for Ryan Priest, that's not too bad, right? Then he finished 18th, a 12th place finish here in May of 2020. I guess one of these is the All-Star race, so we'll skip over that one. So I guess it's 7 starts then in that case, but 9th place here in 2020 in the fall race, and then 17th in 21. He was 12th last year in this very race, and 14th here in the spring. So 14th, 12th, 17th, 9th, 12th for his last 5 starts here at Bristol. All really good finishes for Ryan Priest. And again, Ryan Priest is a guy I almost never look at, right? I just go right past him and say, well, it's Ryan Priest. But really, if you look at what he's been doing lately, he's been fairly solid for you. I mean, he finished 9th place at Watkins Glen, of all places, last week, like just out of nowhere, right? Starts in 21st, 5,400, pays you 49.3 points. Like if you had him in your lineup, that was a pretty good day. He was 18th at Atlanta. He was 12th at Darlington. That's pretty surprisingly good finish, right? From there, he's 11th at Michigan. Like he's had some actually really good days. 4th place at Nashville, Rod. What? Who saw this coming? Like it's Ryan Priest has actually been doing pretty good for as much as we kind of don't give him a ton of credit usually and just kind of overlook him. And then you mix all that in with he's really sneakily good here at Bristol. I like that at 6,400. I think that he's probably going to be very low rostered, as he probably is on most weeks, because, well, he's Ryan Priest. So they take that for what it's worth, but definitely a guy that I think was worth pointing out this week.
Yeah, and I actually do love Ryan Priest. I was kind of looking down in that area, but I had already talked about Brad Keselowski, so I was like, I didn't want to go too heavy on the. But of course, as we know, I mean, these guys can pretty much end up right back to back anyway. So if you're going to take Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, you might as well take another Ford and Ryan Priest. So I like that as well, even though I know they're all not teammates, but Ford travels in packs, I suppose, in this instance. All right. I am going to go all the way down to one Eric Jones. Okay, no, I'm done. That's everybody's tuned out at this point. Eric Jones, $6,200 for Eric Jones. If you look at Eric Jones this season, not too bad when it comes to fantasy points per race, especially at this 25.9 fantasy points per race. Obviously, last week was not a great week for him at the Glen. He only got you 1 point there, but 27, 30, 53, 39 are his last 4 races before that. So you love to see that. And typically not the world's greatest road or short course racer, but he's had some decent DFS days for you over the last few. And it's $6,300, $6,200. That's kind of what you're looking for at this point. Earlier in the spring, started 15th, finished 20th. Not fantastic, but not a day that's going to kill you. In the fall of 2023, started 31st, finished 24th. So a pretty decent jump there. In the fall of 2022, started 24th, finished 21st. However, in his first year driving the 43, which again, I know was not the Legacy Motor Club Toyota, but did start 22nd, finished 8th in that race. As a Gibbs driver, though, really good on this track. Started 20th, finished 3rd in the fall of 2020. Started 15th, finished 5th in that 20 car in the spring of 2020. And then a 5th place finish also in 2018. Runner-up finish, too, in 2017. So he's not going to win this race. He's probably not going to finish in the top 15. But if you can get somewhere between 15th and 20th, and if you get him to start somewhere around the 25th position, I think at $6,200, Eric Jones won't screw your lineup, but and may offer a little bit of upside should he, like I said, start in the back of the pack and sort of work his way up to a 20th place or so finish get you some decent place differential in that one as well. So out of the guys that are around that area too, that's the toughest part of everything. If you look around at the guys that are around Eric Jones, then you're looking at the LaJoys. I don't want any part of him. Austin Dillon, you could make a small case for him, but he is not consistent. Todd Gilliland, you made a case for him in the betting episode. Haley Burton, Zane Smith, Hamrick, Gralla, Balicki, like, I don't want any of those. So Eric Jones is probably the lowest guy that I can go and feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I was looking back through my notes over here, Rod, because I was like, man, didn't I give out a bet on Eric Jones in the betting episode? And I didn't, but I wrote down all the stuff I liked about him, and then I just crossed it all out because I didn't want to do that to the people again because it's not been good when I've given out Eric lately. But he was good enough to almost make the cut, I guess, is what I'll say. That I saw some positive upside from him and some things that I really liked. I ended up going a different way as far as the betting episode goes, but I do think he could be a sneaky DFS play again because you're going to look at him and you're going to think, he's burned me a few times lately, and a lot of people aren't going to want to play him.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're hoping for in DFS altogether, right? I mean, you want to, especially in GPPs, you want to separate yourself a little bit. And I think Eric Jones, when you look at just the breadth of his work this season, does not stand out to you. But you got to dig in a little bit, and you got to say, okay, well, this actually isn't as bad as I see with my eyes. Or because, a lot of times you form those opinions, and you just sort of stick to it. And whatever you watch is whatever you see. It's your reality. But you pull back the curtain a little bit. You're like, oh, okay, maybe that's not too bad. After all, I'll take a chance on him. So hopefully he does well and backs that claim up, or else I look like an idiot who's never watched a NASCAR race in my life. Either way, I'm still going to have fun doing this, right?
That's how it goes, Rod.
All right.
It's like when you give out Ricky Stenhouse at Watkins Glen because he's been really absolutely fantastic there over the years. And then he gets caught up in the wreck on turn 1 on the first lap, and you never get a chance to see it.
How do you not know he's going to do that? His name is Recky Spinhouse, man. How do you not know, Cody? Have you never watched
a race? Good there, Rod.
I know. We are. It's the end of the week, buddy. We're there, bud. Finish line is almost there. We got one more segment. Get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over our DFS plays for the Bass Pro Shops Night Race. Cody started you out with Tyrone Gibbs at $8,700 as his high price driver. I said Brett Keselowski at $9,500 would be my high price driver. Cody dropped down to AJ Allmendinger at $7,000 as his mid-tier driver. I said Michael McDowell would be mine at $7,300. Cody gave you Ryan Preece at $6,400 as his value driver, and I said Eric Jones at $6,200 would be my value driver. Underdog picks on tap. Let's do that after the break. Let's tell you about BetUS first. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years, and you can bet anywhere. BetUS is available in tons of locations, including internationally. BetUS just launched an all-new live betting experience as well. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning-fast payouts. I know that's important to some of you folks out there. You can also, go back through our betting episodes. We've given you plenty of lines from BetUS. They're some of the best out there right now, offer some of the best value. So go back, listen to those. You can find out all of our favorite BetUS picks. Use our link, too, to sign up. Get 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds. And you can get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, props. Rhythm AI had a great week, NFL week 2. 22.5% ROI on NFL spread bets and a 44.3 ROI on NFL money line bets. You can build your own model. You can copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or you can press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Last week, I'll tell you, I was on the model for what Tyler Algier was going to do rushing wise. His line was set at 22.5, and I really wanted to know where the models would take me on the over or the under on that one. Led me straight to the over. Tyler Algier crushed that in 2 drives. So very excited to have that and to use Rhythm to get there. I'm going to do that again this week as I start to predict all of my favorite props for the NFL week. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. also helped to have Tyler Algier on my fantasy football team, which he, did a fine job of filling in my flex spot. So strong on me, my friends.
It's rough when you're having to play Tyler Algier, but shit happens.
It's what happens when your benches are like 600 years deep and you're playing against folks that have drafted every living body in the world. So
yeah, I'm in some pretty deep dynasty leagues that I've had to make some pretty gross starts. Also have one fantasy team that wins the award for every injured player you could possibly draft this year, which is a lot of fun.
That's all. I love watching IR slots fill up. It's the best part of fantasy.
It's great when you have the IR filled up and then you still have players that could go on IR, but you don't have any IR spots left and you can't drop them because they're still going to be good when they come back. Fun times. Fantasy football's great.
It's also good on fantasy and you don't have to worry about injured players. Underdog fantasy. Why? Because you only pick the drivers that you want. And you don't have to worry about carrying them over from week to week to week. We just predict their finishing positions, right? Underdog gives us where they're going to finish, and we either say we pick better than or worse than that finishing position, stack up the multipliers, and if you haven't already gone to Underdog Fantasy, use our promo code RACESGPN. You're going to get those deposits and those special picks, and I'm telling you right now, we've done great on Underdog Fantasy this season in general. But the last few weeks we've been on fire, so if you're not using some of these, I don't know what to say.
We've had a lot of success lately. They've been doing a lot of promos too. Every time I open the app, it's like, hey, 30% boost here, CeeDee Lamb over half a yard here, Kelsey over half a catch here, just all sorts of fun stuff. So it's really great. All right, Rod, diving in, my first pick on Underdog Fantasy is going to be Christopher Buescher, better than 8.5. That's where they've got him projected, but pretty good here at Bristol. Go back to September of 2020 when it was just Roush Fenway Racing, 8th place finish. That's the old Chris Buescher. That's before the Chris Buescher that we know now, Rod. And that was just in a Roush Fenway car. 23rd, then the following September in 2021. Yeah, okay, whatever. Then Brad Keselowski comes in, buys into the team, brings a rejuvenated energy, and unleashes the Chris Buescher that we know today, Rod. They come back in the fall of 2022. He leads 169 laps and wins the race, ends up with a big day. Then they came back last fall, 4th place finish. And then in the spring, even with the tire debacle, still a 17th place finish, or rather a 7th place finish where he led 17 laps, had a good, strong day. That means 4 of the last 5, he has finished better than this 8.5. And I think that he's going to continue. He's running off of the momentum of winning at Wallace Glen last week, of course, beating one of the best road course racers in the world in Shane Van Gisbergen, and all of this stuff. And this is a playoff cutoff race. There's all this pressure, all these things going on, but not for Chris Buescher. He's not in the playoffs, right? He doesn't have to worry about that. Just focus forward, go out there and have your day, run your race. That's what Chris Buescher is going to do. I think he's going to be in the mix for the win, as we talked about over on the betting episode, but I love his better than 8.5 as well.
Well, and he said it too last week in the interview. It was like, look, we came out to play spoiler, and that's exactly what we did. And I think that's going to be his mentality from here on out. I mean, obviously, if you got nothing to lose, then you got nothing to lose. You're going to go out there and just run to win every single race, and whatever that takes, whatever strategy call that takes, if that means, having to come in when everybody doesn't. Chris Buescher is that kind of guy. That RFK team is that kind of team. They're going to do that. So I do like this, actually. I think I may have poo-pooed it in the betting episode, but the more I think about Buescher, even better than 8, I feel like that's a pretty decent spot for him. Yeah. But somebody that is in the playoff hunt, somebody that does have a lot of pressure on him and unfortunately does not perform well on this track, Ryan Blaney. His finishing position is set at 9.5. Cody, I will go back to the 2019 season, and I will read you off his finishes over the course of the last 5 years now, 6 years, something like that. 10th place in 2019, 40th place in 2020. That's when there's only 39 cars to finish for. No, I'm just kidding. It was 40 cars. 13th place in the fall of 2020, and then 4th place in 2021. So yay! But the last 3, 30th, 22nd. He started on the pole here in the spring. You thought, woo, Ryan Blaney's got it. Finished 16th, only led 14 laps in the process. I'm telling you right now, this is not. And then Ryan Blaney's average finish since February of 2021 on all short tracks, 11.2 in that span. So he's not necessarily been the greatest. 15.5 average finish in his career on short tracks. Richmond, he finished 11th. He did win Iowa this year, and he finished 5th at Martinsville. So 2 good finishes on a couple of shorter tracks. However, this is Bristol. This is a completely different animal. But the season before, 19th at Richmond, 16th at Bristol. He won Martinsville in 2023. Cool, but 22nd at Bristol, 14th at Richmond. Martinsville seems to be his track. That's the one where he does the best at, right? 7th at Martinsville, 26th at Richmond, 30th at Bristol. It's inconsistent at best, wildly inconsistent at best. He has had 2 good finishes on short tracks this season. I'll give him that. But something about Bristol just does not suit him well. And top 10 finishes are not there for him more often than not, especially top 9 finishes. So give me Ryan Blaney, worse than 9.5. Hate it, but the numbers are just leading me right there.
Hey, if that's where the numbers take you, that's where the numbers take you. No argument from me here. I mean, you laid out the case pretty good for it. He's not been good at Bristol, and I think that counts for a lot. His luck hasn't been great lately either. I mean, 2 of the last, 3 races, 2 of the last 4 races, he's gotten taken out on lap 1 or 2. That's pretty rough for a guy of the defending champion, of course, but hasn't been great here. So yeah, you definitely have to take that into factor. Somebody who has been great here, Rod, Mr. Chase Elliott, Clyde, better than 9.5. Boy, it seems like they're just disrespecting him a little bit, but yeah, I really love this for Chase Elliott. He came here in the springtime. We had the tire debacle, finishes in 8th place. Last year in the fall, 7th place. 2022 in the fall, 2nd place. 21 leads 129 laps, 3rd and 5th in the stages. Well, then he has the run-in with Kevin Harvick and ends up finishing 25th. But you put an asterisk on that race because he was having a much better race than where he ends up finishing. September 2020, 7th place here. Then there was the All-Star race in July where he won that one, of course. The 22nd in 2020 before that, but then 5th, 11th, 3rd. Great finishes from Chase Elliott here at Bristol. And then you just look at the season he's had, right? And it's not been that impressive. He's got the 1 win. He hasn't led a ton of laps, but he still almost won the regular season championship just by, I mean, what does he have? 2 finishes worse than 20th all the entire season to this point. He just consistency'd the fuck out of the points and almost won the regular season title that way. And that's all you need. Just some good consistency. Get inside the top 9 at the end of the day. Chase Elliott, very capable of that. He's been extremely good at this track. Don't need him to win. You don't need him to be overly impressive. Doesn't have to get a top 5. Just has to get a top 9. Finish 9th place or better. That's what Chase Elliott does on an almost weekly basis. So love that for Chase Elliott, better than 9.5.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the entire Hendrick stable being somewhat, at least solid, if not reliable, to a point where we can predict good finishes for all of them, up to and including, Cody, William Byron. I've got him finishing better than 9.5. This one's kind of, look, I don't know if it's recency bias because of the fact that he finished in 35th in the spring. But if you look before, and look, really, the spring race for him was ended because Logano tried 3 wide with him and Bell and got him into the wall on lap 21. So, that wasn't necessarily his fault. Does it happen on short tracks? Yeah, but it doesn't really happen to him that much on this track. And in fact, 3 finishes before his 34th place finish, he finished 9th, 3rd, and 3rd. All 3 of those obviously better than 9.5. Bristol of 2020 in the fall, crashed out of that one too, finished 38. But before that, an 8th place finish in the spring of 2020. How has he done on short tracks in general? Well, Richmond earlier this year, 13th. Okay, it's not better than 9, but before that, Iowa 2nd. He won at Martinsville, 7th at Richmond. 3 solid finishes. He was probably he could have had another one. He started 8th place. He had speed in the early Bristol race. Unfortunately, that 13th place finish was there. 13th at Martinsville, but 9th place at Bristol in 2023 in the fall. And then 3 bad finishes at Richmond, Martinsville, and Richmond again. But 7th at Martinsville, 3rd at Bristol. Won Martinsville in 2022. Won Richmond finished 3rd in Richmond in 2022. 5th at Martinsville in 2021. Again, good short track racer is William Byron. I think a top 5 finish is well within his reach this week. So that puts him definitely solidly inside of 9.5. So give me William Byron better than 9.5.
Almost combined your last 2 picks there, Rod.
Well, I was looking at Blaney. I was looking at I need a new prescription, by the way, guys. I swear to God, this aging thing does not treat anybody nicely. So if you're getting up there in age and you're needing new glasses like me, you know the struggle.
It's I would say we've all been there, but that's not true. So anyways, Rod, we got done talking about a couple of guys that been pretty good here at Bristol. Let's talk about a guy who has not been good here at Bristol. He's been really good this season. He's had a hell of a season. That is one Tyler Reddick, the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series champion. Rod, been talking about it since last November, and I love Tyler Reddick. Huge fan of his, very invested in the season. They've got his projected finish at 10.5. Roddy's got 6 career starts here at Bristol. One time has he finished better than 10.5. That was in the Richard Childress Racing number 8 car in September of 2020. This track has just not been kind to Tyler Reddick. 30th place finish here in the spring, 15th here last fall, 25th in September of 22, 12th in September of 2021. He did have that 4th place finish in his first career start here, 36th place, even in the All-Star race, 10th place. He barely squeaked under on the better than side of this. So, I'm very out on Tyler Reddick this week. I think we talked about him in one of the head-to-heads back on the betting episode. I think I gave Chase Elliott out over him. Hopefully you got in on that early because that number shifted big time after we talked about it. And then I heard it's always, I love when I listen to Phil or when I listen to the NASCAR betting preview show and they're on the same things. They were talking about William Byron, who you just made the case for over him, and every matchup you can get with Tyler Reddick, because as good as he is, like the books are thinking on a week-to-week basis, okay, he's so good and he's consistent, he does well, but he just doesn't have it at Bristol for whatever reason. And until we see it different, it's much like the Kyle Larson. I hate to bring it up because we're going to be talking about it at Talladega in a couple weeks. But if somebody's just not good somewhere, sometimes because of everything else, the rest of their entire body of work that you get, it's like, well, you couldn't set his number at 15.5 because you'd get killed on the other side of it, even though you'd probably end up winning because he probably would still be worse then, right? But so they're hedging themselves and trying to protect themselves, but the number is just way too low of a number. 10.5. How does Tyler Reddick end up in the top 10 at the end of the day? He's Tyler Reddick. He's talented and he's been great, so maybe he gets it done, but he's not been any good at Bristol throughout his entire career. I don't think that's going to change this weekend, so I'm all aboard the fade Tyler Reddick train this week before we get back into he's going to win the championship mode starting again next week, which I will fully be back on. But give me Tyler Reddick worse than 10.5.
I know that, you preach consistency in drivers and you say that these drivers are always good and always, but there's always that one nemesis that will always just.
Everybody has their kryptonite, Rod.
Everybody has
even
it.
Superman.
Even Superman. Speaking of everybody having their kryptonite, I know you just talked him up in the DFS episode. And listen, if Tyrone Gibbs finishes in 7th place, it'll still be a solid DFS day for him, right? But Underdog has him put at 6.5. I am sorry.
Is it really 6.5?
It is 6.5 right now. Yeah, please fact check me because I've been known to give erroneous, stats and spell things wrong.
Sometimes Rod makes up his own shit.
Sometimes I just literally whatever I see is what I get. But look, twice in this particular track, he has finished outside of this. Only one time has he finished in the top 5 on this track. There are a lot of powerful names that are about to occupy the front of this, namely Hamlin, Larson, maybe even Byron will sneak up there. It's going to be very tough for Ty Gibbs to hang in the top 5. And honestly, I'm just going to rest it at this. This sophomore slump, you guys laugh at it, but it is 100% real. It has hit him so very hard. His finishes over the last few races, 22nd at Watkins Glen. Rod, that's a road course. I don't care. He's not running well. 17th in Atlanta. Rod, that's a super speedway. Okay, if he's the second coming of Jesus Christ, then he should be running well everywhere, right? Darlington, 20th place finish. Oh, now we're kind of talking a little bit, right? He finished 5th at Daytona, 3rd at Michigan. Good on him. But 22nd at Richmond before that, 23rd at IRP, 27th at Pocono, 3rd at Chicago. He's supposed to be good there, so I won't take any grief for that. Nashville started 8th, finished 25th. Loudon started 18th, finished 16th. Stop me when I get to another 9th place or 6th place finish or better. Iowa, 25th, Sonoma 37th, Gateway 11th, Charlotte 6th. Oh, stop, Rod. Okay. How far back was Charlotte? Oh, that was a long time ago. So, look, not to say that he's not going to have a top 10 day. That's fantastic. But I don't think top 6 is in his cards this weekend. I know all the Ty Gibbs love out there is real. You're all going to come after me. I'm not saying he's not going to have a good day. I just don't think he's going to have a great day. He's not blue shirt guy. So we'll just leave it at that and say Tyrone Gibbs worse than 6.5 for this race.
Yeah, I think that, I just made the case for him in the DFS part of things, and I think that he's got a high ceiling, right? I think he's capable of winning this. This is another example of maybe we're just overvaluing him a little bit, and I know he's been good here in the 2 races, but 6.5 is just such a tough bullet to swallow as far as taking the better than side. So if I had to pick a side, I probably would take the worse than side, even though I know he's capable of doing the other side, just because, again, it's all about the numbers game. And if you fill out that top 6, you could fill up pretty quickly. So, yeah, I think you could still play him in DFS as far as the DraftKings side of things and still take his worse than on this. He's probably one I'll just stay away from because I don't want to root for him to finish worse than 6, Rod. But I see your point, and it is just another example of maybe a little more overvalued than we should be, I guess.
Can I go one further? Richmond 22nd, Iowa 25th, Martinsville 19th, Richmond 6th, Bristol 9th, Martinsville 18th, Bristol 5th, cool. Richmond 15th, Martinsville 18th, Richmond 9th, Martinsville 19th, 35th, 36th. I see one finish in all of those times. If Ty Gibbs is going to try to kick me in the nuts and he misses all those times, I'm still going to stand there because the one time that he does, I'll take the heat. So, yeah, that is where I stand on Ty Gibbs today, unfortunately for you guys.
Well, there you have it, friends.
Rod loses all the followers and listeners because of that, and that's fine. All right, get out your pen and paper. We're going to wrap things up here before we definitely go into the tank. All the rating and reviews now are going to be all negative on me for Tyrone Gibbs, but that's okay. Cody, on our underdog pick, started you out with Chris Buescher, better than 8.5. I said Ryan Blaney would finish worse than 9.5. Cody said Chase Elliott would finish better than 9.5. I said William Byron would finish better than 9.5. Cody said that Tyler Reddick would finish worse than 10.5. I said his Toyota teammate Gibbs would finish worse than 6.5. There it is, Cody. We've concluded our DFS and underdog picks for the Bass Pro Shops night race. Everybody go forth. Have some fun filling out your lineups and your pick sheets.
Yeah, don't forget to get these lineups in Saturday night. Don't wake up Sunday morning trying to do it while you're filling out your fantasy football lineups because you're going to be sorely disappointed. Get it in, and best of luck to you all.
Best of luck. Everybody enjoy your weekend. We're gonna bounce. We're gonna enjoy our weekend too. So we're not in a hurry to do it, but we're not gonna beat around the bush. So Cody, as we send everybody off to enjoy their weekend, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, follow me over on the X Rod at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all of my stuff there. Ton of NFL game previews, F1 articles, NASCAR articles. Of course, check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. Go back and listen to this full week's episodes. Well, some of them might be irrelevant at this point, but listen to whatever you can. Listen to them anyways. Sometimes it's fun to listen to it after the fact and be like, "Ooh, they nailed that. Ooh, they were really wrong about that one." Shit happens, but that's how it goes. All right, Rod, let's get out of here. Happy Friday. See you all next week.
If there's a better reason to listen to old gambling takes other than to catch everybody being bad, I don't know what there is other than that. All right. Follow me on Twitter, RJ Villagomez. Link in the bot, everything I've got going on. A ton of stuff all there as well. Make sure to check out the Back Road. It's already available on your favorite YouTube channel over there, In Between Media. And, yeah, we'll talk more Bristol at that point. All right, we'll be back to recap this race next week. And until then, everyone, let's go racing and let it ride.
Sweet as a ending, cast away on the mile.